Ethics Committee is expected to meet today to weigh whether or not to release their report on Matt Gaetz, the former Florida Republican congressman who has now been picked to be Donald Trump's attorney general. He was at the center of a years-long investigation into alleged sexual misconduct with a minor, as well as illicit drug use. If it's released, the report would contain the testimony of at least two women who told the committee that Gaetz paid them for sex and attended drug-fueled parties with them, where one of the women witnessed him have sex with a 17-year-old.
They testified that they met up with Matt Gaetz in New York in January of 2019 for his appearance on Fox News.
Met up with or traveled with, do you know?
So Mr. Gaetz paid them for the tickets to come to New York for the trip, and they went to Broadway shows while they're there.
What show did they see? I'm just curious now.
Pretty Woman.
About a sex worker?
I had not even thought about that.
Interesting.
Oh, Pretty Woman. Joining me now to discuss, Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee. He's a former member of the House Ethics Committee and served alongside Gaetz on the House Judiciary Committee until Gaetz resigned from Congress last week. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Good to be with you again.
So we are expecting the Ethics Committee to meet today. Unclear whether they will vote on releasing this report. I know you've already called for them to do that, but what's your sense of what they are actually going to do? Is the pressure from House Speaker Mike Johnson going to impact Republicans and mean this report never sees the light of day?
Well, it's really not from House Speaker Mike Johnson, even though he has power. But his power is he's just a conduit for the power that comes from Mar-a-Lago. And so that's the fear is Trump. He's the bad guy. And I don't think they'll release it. It'll be 5-5, and at 5-5 it won't go out. But it should go out because the American public has a right to, they don't have a right, but they need to see it. They need to see who's been nominated to be the top law enforcement officer in the country. And it would also be a teaching tool to the Congress people, including myself. I don't know. I mean, everyone's talking about the salacious things, the sex and the 17-year-old and the drugs. And that's wrong and bad and illegal and blah, blah, blah. But there's stuff in there about taking a bribe. I want to know what kind of, did he get $50 and vote for something, or $500 or something else that's kind of a quid pro quo deal. They said he used his congressional perquisites for people that was unauthorized. I don't know what they mean. Did somebody vote him? Did he give his voting card to somebody and they voted for him, or whatever he did? I don't even understand from the charges. And then there's some other things in there concerning using his campaign fund for personal expenses. Did he charge the plays and the tickets to New York and the hotel room to his campaign members' representation allowance, which is illegal? Those are kind of things that would be a very good tool to teach Congress people more about ethics, but also there's a prophylactic so people think, I don't need to do that. The Ethics Committee needs to be strong. It needs to be respected. And that would happen if this was released. So I think there's a lot of things to look at. Reports have been released after people have resigned in the past. Bill Boner from Tennessee, Foley from Florida, Matta or something, if he was only there for about a year, okay. Eric Massa. And so they've done it. But especially if somebody's going to a higher office, if you're going to leave and go home and be out of the public eye, maybe. But if you're going to try to be Attorney General and have influence over the government and the American people, and you've got information about the person that might be relevant to the Senate's confirmation hearings, yeah, you got a duty to release it. And if you don't release it, you're doing an injustice to the House, to the institution, to the system of checks and balances, to democracy, and to this country.
Congressman, some former or current members of the House, Mark Mullen sticks out in my mind as now a senator. They have talked about personally experiencing Matt Gaetz bragging about some of the behavior that may be detailed in this report. Do you have personal experience? Have you seen Matt Gaetz brag about having sex, about other things that show up here?
He made some statements to me when he was a freshman that I found just kind of amazing and shocking, and I just had to look forward. We were in the committee room, and I guess he thought he was a young guy and he was getting started, and I sponsored decriminalization of marijuana laws, and he came up and he said something. I just thought, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying that to me.
Saying
but it's consistent with what he's.
What did he say?
I'm not going to go into it, but it's consistent with what he's been charged with.
Can you give us a little bit more detail? What did it relate to? I mean, come on.
I know you want to do something that Mika and the other Mika does. And I know you don't want to go to Palm Beach, but we're not going to give you something exclusive that
Okay.
Mika and Joe don't get. Not that I quit watching Mika and Joe. They're off.
So, sir, let's talk for a second about Democrats and how you push back against the incoming Trump administration, because obviously any party that's not in power often views itself as the party of opposition. There are some who look at how Democrats pushed back against Trump in his first term that they felt went too far, perhaps. I'm curious what you think Democrats did right and wrong in pushing back against the first Trump administration and how you should do it differently this time.
Well, the first time was really a shock because of his conduct and some of the things he said about just women in particular, and the way he used the federal government to enrich himself. I mean, the people that stayed at Trump Tower, the Trump Hotel, and the monies he charged the Secret Service, and they took flights in Europe not to stop, and they made him go to Scotland and take a 40-mile drive to Trump's hotel where they stayed. And he grifted totally, and it was improper. The emoluments clause was violated, so it was terrible. I don't want to say we're inured to it, but we know he's going to do it. And now with the Supreme Court saying he's got a privilege, he can't be sued if it's in his official capacity. He's Al Capone selling liquor right on the main streets of Chicago. He's got no guardrails at all. I think we need to stand up and let the American public know that when we think he's wrong and he's violating emoluments clauses and things, and he's going to do it constantly. I mean, that's just kind of the way he does it, and that's the way people he admires. Putin, he runs Russia. He's an oligarch. He's got lots of business interests, and does things for his friends, and same thing for Xi, and I'm sure Kung Pao, whatever his name is in North Korea, he does the same thing too.
King Jong-un. Yeah. Okay.
Kung Pao pork.
Congressman Steve Cohen, thank you very much. You speaking of pork, is it barbecue we got up here?
No, it's rock and roll.
Rock and roll. I'm sorry.
Elvis, Johnny Cash, Roy
very
Orbison,
nice.
Jerry
Okay.
Lee.
Well, we're a hat-friendly set, so come back.
James
Right.
Carville.
53 minutes past the hour. Here's your morning roundup. Surveillance video in the